Good morning, everyone. I hate to interrupt the wonderful conversations that are going on, which I hope will continue as we get into our conversation mode here. Welcome to Interfaith Community Sanctuary. My name is Sally Joe, and I'm one of the co-ministers here, along with Imam Jamal Rahman. And we welcome you this morning to this our wonderful Sunday service with our very excited about having our guest speaker, Terry Hershey, and we'll be introducing him soon. But I want to ring the bell so we can be officially started. Are we ready? Here we go. And we welcome your participation here today, and we will open our service, as we often do, with a few of our traditions, and one of them is, first of all, the first tradition is lighting our lamps, which are world peace lamps. The flame originated, I think, in Iceland and went all over the 7 continents of the world, and was one of the flames was brought to Interfaith Community Sanctuary many years ago, back in the 1990s. And we've been very proud of that. And we open our altar, which has sacred writings from many, many different traditions, and we'd like to have the energy of those traditions flowing into our sanctuary during our service times. So we welcome you, and we have a candle over here to honor the divine feminine, especially, just to make sure that we're all aware of the divine feminine energy that is in each and every one of us and flowing in the universe all the time. But sometimes we feel it isn't always recognized, so we like to recognize it. So we do some offerings, and our first offerings will be offered by Joey Klein, who is going to invite our ancestors and honor our first people this morning.
Thank you, Sally Joe, and welcome, Terry. And hello, good morning, everyone. It's so wonderful to see you here. I was asked just a few minutes ago to give this offering this morning, and I'm honored to do so. Thank you, Sally Joe. This is a poem that we've heard before, and it's so beautiful that I wanted to bring it back again. It actually encompasses both the ancestors and the indigenous folks. So please listen. This isn't rehearsed, so I'll do my best at reciting it well and giving the author credit. Andrew, is it Ferrari wrote this beautiful poem. It says, "Gather with us, rainy city ancestors. We gather in this city of gray skies and evergreen stillness. The city rises, the machines roar. It is within the hush between rainfalls that holds a truth the land remembers. We gather on unceded land that breathes memory, land held by the coast's Sahelish peoples. Where once a chief stood in the shadow of change and with dignity wrote, 'The earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth.' The wind carries their language, the cedar remembers their touch, the songs echo in these trees, their prayers ride on Puget Sound winds. The voices of those who came after mingle with those who came before. Those who found roots in this soil, who carried memories of distant lands, and those whose names were carried by the tides and the winds. We gather. Let us listen, not with ears, but with the feet on soil, with hands in the river, with the breath that fills our lounges. I think it's supposed to be lungs. With hearts wide as the Salish seas, let us listen to what the land remembers. O ancestors, all ancestors, who walked these and other lands, before names were carved into maps, we call you. Sit with us again. Help us to remember the knowledge of the heart. Guide us as we weave our paths together, as we prepare and grow anew what has been wrought. May we hear you in the rustle of the leaves and see you in the flight of the city crow and feel you in the air we breathe. In respect, with love, we invite all our ancestors who came before, gather with us this day. Amen.
Thank you, Joey. That poem was written by one of our members, just in the past year, Andrew Ferrari, who, that's beautiful because I remember when I contacted him, the week before the service, and his wife and child were involved in the service that Sunday, and I asked if he'd like to do our offering for the ancestors, and he wrote that beautiful poem, which I was really, thank you for, and I had him give me a copy because I knew we'd want to return to it. Beautiful, well done. For the Divine Feminine, I also have a reading from a member of our community from afar, I might say. Her name is Helwa, and she's a beautiful person who's been to our community. She's prayed in our prayer room with us, and she has gone to the Sufi school, Sufi University in California. So many of you, if you've been there, you know her. And Helwa wrote this beautiful, I would call it a prayer, and it's related to our annual discernment of sanctuary, and this month's topic in particular, which I'll talk about just briefly in a minute, which is sanctuary in nature. So that's why I chose this reading for today. The natural world is comprised of divine signs that God sends to us to know something of ourselves and to know something of Him. We are not just called to read the revelation of God's words bound in a book. We are called to read the book of our inner realities and to read the revelation of the natural world, the wisdom of the stars, moon, sun, trees, and the seas. Thank you. And I'm going to talk just for a minute about our discernment for the year, which is an invitation to create sanctuary and community, where we're focusing on the word sanctuary in our name, Interfaith Community Sanctuary, and digging deeper into what that means to each and every one of us, to our community, to the various perspectives we bring when we enter this building. And we pride ourselves on the fact that everyone who enters this building and decides to worship with us brings his or her or their own perspective, and we value that and we honor that. And so we've been exploring our different perspectives on the word sanctuary. And we every month, as you know, for the first service of every month, we invite a guest, someone who might not be a regular member of our community, may have been here before, but this may not be their only or their major worship community. We invite them to come and share his, her, or their perspective on the topic at hand. And we've invited Terry Hershey today, and there's a little bit of bio of him in the program, and I'll introduce him right before I'm going to give him a chance to speak. But first of all, I want to mention that you can also see on the back of your program all the different topics that we have been covering this year, month by month. We kind of broke down, as we usually do, we break down the larger theme into monthly segments so we can make an effort to go deeper into it. And we've started in January, Sanctuary of Inclusion, and we've been going on through the year, each month with a different subtopic. And it's not to say that these subtopics mean anything special by themselves. They're all interconnected, we hope. I mean, that's our goal, to get them all interconnected in ourselves. But this month, the month of September, and this is the first Sunday we will have been addressing this particular aspect of sanctuary, which is sanctuary of nature. And we're very pleased to have Terry Hershey here and Terry Hershey's the author of a book that Joey found for us early in the year when she was doing her research on sanctuary, I guess, and she found this book and read it and offered it to me, and I wanted to read it too right away, and said, well, this is a local writer, and he's from Vashon Island, and we should try to get him to come down here and talk to us. So we read the book, and I've mentioned it a couple times in the service, and we got lucky because at the time when we thought about this, I already had my year packed with First Sunday speakers, because I have to do that kind of early on. But we got an opening, a divine sign. One of our speakers was very unfortunately unable to make it, and she felt terrible. And I said, "Oh, well, don't worry, we'll find a way." But I didn't know, because this happened I think it was back in May or June. She was supposed to speak in June, and she didn't tell me till May that she couldn't come. And I remember having a little bit of a panic attack, and then I thought, well, I'm going to call Terry Hershey and see if he's nearby. Maybe he can run on down to Seattle, I mean, usually, that was a long way to come, and we appreciate you making that trip, although I guess he and his wife live in Port Ludlow now. You were in Vashon, according to your website. Anyway, I got hold of Terry, and right away, within like 10 minutes, he answered my email and said, sure, I'd love to come. So I am very pleased, I'm thrilled, I'm happy to have him. I'm meeting him in person for the first time this morning, and I'm very happy to meet him and his wife. And he's a perfect fit for this talk today, because he's not only an inspirational speaker, and somebody called us, Terry, from the East Coast and left a message on the phone wondering if this is going to be recorded, and we said, yes, of course it is, and it would be viewable later. It's live streamed and it's recorded and kept in our archives, so you can find it on our YouTube channel. So you have people all over the country listening to you this morning, which probably doesn't surprise you. I was pleased to hear that. He's a humorist, an author, a dad, a Protestant minister, and a landscape designer. No wonder Joey picked up on him. She's the same thing. He's addicted to golf. That's all right. That's a good addiction. We're not going to hold that against you. I don't know why you call it addiction, but he loves it. He lives in Port Ludlow. He used to live on Vashon Island. His work has been featured on the Hallmark Channel, CNN, PBS, and NPR. Any three-letter initial, he's got it down. This is what I love about the description, and he'll fill us in on this. Terry holds a mirror up to our fast-forward, disconnected lives and offers us the power of pause, the wisdom of doing less and living more in order to regain emotional and spiritual balance. To find the sacred in every day, Terry is author of many books. What did you say, over 20? Books that you've read, and he's brought for us today the book that Joey and I enjoyed, and he'll even be happy to sign copies if anybody wants to purchase one. And I will say that having read this book, what I particularly loved about it was he breaks it down into aspects and chapters, and breaks down the concept of how to have an inner sanctuary. And he has little writing exercises at the end of each chapter and a way to engage you. So I do recommend the book, and I think that, but best of all, I recommend Terry presenting to us and sharing his wisdom with us. And so I'm going to let Steve introduce us with a little, get rid of all my talking, yak, and get us relaxed and ready and to receive Terry's message. Thank you.
It's always fun. Some of you can relate, some of you can't because of your age, but those of us of a certain age, technology in us, we don't know. Like my son, he's, 28, but because I don't know what to do with machines, and he just says, Dad, step away from the machine. Step away. You're clueless. My better half, Nancy, is here. Start at the beginning. What I love is being in a building that has history. I love it. And here's why. Because especially in this era, what we need to recognize is it's not just that we have arguments with each other that we need to win or lose. It's that we find healing in stories that we tell each other. And so what I love are the stories in old buildings. We were just in England for a month, and we're in churches where we did worship, where people had been for several hundred years. And my favorite thing is just to think of the stories. And here, there have been several people who've had this church, right? Several different denominations, faith, traditions, which I love. So more stories today. Secondly, just to bring you up to date about where I am and how I got to where I am, I moved to Vashon Island from Orange County, California. So Orange County, California, Vashon, very similar. I was moving up here, and my friend worked at what's the tallest building in Seattle? Yeah. So he was like the 100th floor. Took me to the top and said, I want to show you the neighborhoods where you might want to live. So you could see Green Lake. He said, oh, you think that's good? And he would show me all the places. You want to choose these places. And then you look to the west, and all you see is just water, Puget Sound, and then islands. You see Bainbridge, and you see Vashon. And I thought, whoa, what's that? And he said to me, don't even think about it. I said, why not? He said, it's just a bunch of old hippies. True story, I went over and bought a house the next day. And that was in 1988. And Nancy's lived on Vashon for longer than me. We both raised our children on Vashon, and now we have been celebrated our 13th. So we're delighted with that. What happened when I moved up here, I'm clergy in the Protestant faith tradition of being clergy. And when I moved here, I went back to school. I went to Edmonds Community College and did a degree in horticulture. Because all of a sudden, the first thing I did when I moved here is I bought land on Vashon, and I laid down under a tree, and I thought, this is different. And I wrote a book called Soul Gardening, and the premise of the book is everything I was taught about God in church and seminary, I unlearned it. And the garden retaught me. And so my faith tradition took a wonderful amending change. And if someone were to ask me what my faith tradition is, it would be, for those of you who recognize this part of it, it's Celtic. And the Celtic spirituality is very, very similar to Native American spirituality. It's grounded. Grounded. This is where we find it. And so if the best sermon I could give you, if we could, is literally to walk you through the garden or walk you through the forest where we live now. And then we can tell stories there. So I'm delighted to be doing that. And by the way, it's in my bio that the garden is my church. It's my sanctuary. And I don't trust people who don't have dirt under their fingernails. I'm just letting you know. The topic today, sanctuary. So let's start at the beginning, and that is this. Every single one of us is wired. It's in our DNA to be replenished. It's in our DNA to be nourished. It's in our DNA to be undepleted. But, tell me if this isn't true, we live in a world that does the opposite. Fair? I'll give you a word for it. It's called bunkum. We live in a world with bunkum. Would that be fairly accurate? Do we not live in a world that depletes us? That takes replenishment out of us? That undoes us? That makes us... And we have bunkum, and what's unfortunate, and this is why it's important to gather like this as communities, to remember that bunkum doesn't get the final word. Sanctuary gets the final word, the replenishment part. And so we're going to do that today because, and bunkum, I left mine in the car. The biggest bunkum I have is my cell phone. And so how do we honor sanctuary? So I'm going to tell you some stories, and we'll see if we can do that. But let me pause for a minute. Do you know what the word paradigm means? What's a paradigm? Someone tell me.
It's a large shift in vision of the world.
Okay, good. It doesn't really matter where I speak, anywhere in the United States or in the other countries. When you ask a question with a group of people, the people who answer are the women. I'm just saying. Thank you. The men are going, I don't know, we may be wrong. Let's not answer. So a paradigm is basically, yes, the way we see, let's just call it, yeah. And there are, it's interesting, the paradigm, it's not just what you believe, it's how you look at it. That's the thing. And so there's a paradigm shift here because someone says to me, okay, Terry, sanctuary, that's good, and our temptation with our cerebral point of view here in this culture is, good, give us the steps. Tell us how to do it. We'll get it done. How many of you are list makers? Okay, see, list makers are proud. I mean, I understand it, I get it, because the greatest physical pleasure known to a list maker. We did it. And so there's a temptation because we live in a world which is about lists. We say to ourselves, good, sanctuary is good, give us a list. So here's the first paradigm shift I want to give us for the stories I'm going to tell you today, and that is this. We're going to shift paradigms from doing to being. Because we say, okay, sanctuary is good, how do I do it? No. So, we need to understand that paradigm shift just in the way we meet each other today. In fact, when you meet someone you've never met, what's the first question you ask them? What do you do? Think about that just for a minute. We live in a world. The very first question I ask you is not, did you smile today? The very first question I ask you is not, what colors did you see today that you loved? See, isn't that interesting? Wow. How was the food you tasted at lunch? No. First question, what do you do? And I don't really mean what do you do, because I can answer, I walk my dog. But see, we don't even mean that, do we? What do we mean by that? Exactly. Think about that just for 1 minute. This is a paradigm, and this is, if there's anything about what we're going to do with this service this morning, that's the first thing, is to change our paradigm. That the first perception I have of a human being is, tell me how you make money. Wow. Which is why it's so hard in our culture to say you're unemployed. Or retired, because now what am I supposed to say now? Who am I? So what do you do? And then if we're retired, we have to make stuff up. Right? What I do, because now, does it sound important? I was on a plane. I'm the kind of person, I don't like to talk to people on planes. Any of you with me? Don't need to. Don't chat with me. Just let me ride.
I can go either way.
See, don't sit next to me. So I'm on a plane, and of course the first thing they ask you, if it's like, oh, where are you from, and then what do you do? And I thought, I said, I'm a TV evangelist. Not only did it shut them up, they didn't talk to me for the whole flight. It was awesome. So I decided to mess with them, and then when the drinks come, I slapped them and said, say Jesus, just to get to them. What do you do? So we're going to shift the question, is about being. So I'm going to tell you some stories and think about the paradigm. This is how do I be, okay? So every one of us, it's in our DNA to be replenished. In the backyard of her home in northern Florida, my grandmother had a porch swing. She used to sit and swing, and she hummed old church hymns. Her favorite was one called Rock of Ages, Cleft for Me. And she sang, I come to the garden alone, or the dew is still on the roses. And one of her other favorites was, What a Friend We Have in Jesus. I can still see her there, sitting on the porch swing humming. She had a white scarf over her head, which was a concession to chemotherapy's unrelenting march in her life. And I used to visit her as a young adult, and by then I was already ordained, so I was Reverend Terry. I was her eldest grandchild. When I visited her, she would always ask me to sit with her on the swing for a spell, she called it, the Southern way, for a spell. And she just sat with me, and all she did was pat my leg and call me darling. I'm going to tell you that to this day, that swing set is in my heart and my spirit and my soul, because I didn't have to prove to be somebody I wasn't there. I didn't have to keep score there. I didn't have to impress anybody there, and I didn't have to apologize for my craziness. Because on that swing set, I could just be darling. And I know you can relate to me. It's not easy to hear that, is it? Not in this world where we have to keep score. Here's what I want to say to you, and let's start here. Every single one of us has a swing set place in our life. And if I were having a conversation with each one of you, I would start with, tell me where your swing set is. And here's what I want to say to you, and this is a vital thing. In a world that depletes us and diminishes us, where the noise is so loud, we stay away from our swing sets. One of the gifts, do you want one of the great gifts we can have for each other? Is to remind each other where those places are. And sometimes we don't remember. Is that fair? Or sometimes we don't visit. Sometimes we don't know. Very often. And that's one of the important gifts and necessities of community. I have friends men friends, we've known each other I've been ordained 46 years, we've known each other for that long. And we would get together every year, different parts of the country we live in. And each one of us knew that life's craziness would take over, and we had to encourage each other to make sure you found your sanctuary space. Where is it? But I don't know if you know this, but sometimes we're not even aware how crazy it is in our own life, but our friends know, don't they? Our friends can see it. And I want to say to you as a community, one of the greatest gifts I can give to you as a member of my community is, can I help you find your swing set today? And they would say to me, if I'm going through crazy, Terry, you need to get in your garden today. That other stuff can wait. Your list can wait. We need you to be sane. My swing set's my garden. It's different for different people. So number one, we start with every one of us has a swing. Every one of us has a sanctuary, and the first question I want to ask, instead of what do you do, tell me where your swing set is. Where's your sanctuary? It might be a cup of coffee in the morning. I don't know what it is, but I want to help you find it. Number one. Number two, the second point I want to make is that how long am I supposed to talk? I didn't ask today. Yeah. It's interesting that when you're doing something at a church to ask in the middle of your talk how long you're supposed to talk. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not a list maker. I should have made that list. The second part is the reason it's difficult for us to embrace our sanctuary is because we're focused on the wrong things. My hero, Mr. Rogers. Our world could use him today. Would that be a fair statement? Yeah, Mr. Rogers is a great story. He was on a subway in New York, and he got off, and he was traveling with two younger people who worked for him. They worked for his show, but there was a family that saw him, and they recognized Mr. Rogers. There was a mom and a little boy. He was, like 4-ish, 5-ish at the most. And the little boy had a lightsaber. Do you know what I'm talking about? Star Wars. Had a lightsaber, and he's whacking everybody. It's a very good image of what it means to be masculine in our country. You just whack things. Right? He's whacking everybody with his, and the mom is going, honey, please. She's trying to get him to stop, and he won't, please. And he's whacking Mr. Rogers. And she says, honey, and he won't stop. She says, honey, I think it's against the law to kill Mr. Rogers. And he won't stop. What I love about Fred Rogers is Fred ignores the adults. He focuses on the kids. So Fred goes to the little boy, and Fred gets on his knees. Tell me why he got on his knees. He's eye to eye with the little guy. And nobody can hear him because it's just whisper, 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 whisper. And the little boy puts away his lightsaber. Fred Rogers says goodbye. 20 minutes later, the two young people who are traveling with Fred Rogers, what did they say to Fred Rogers? Please tell us what you said to the kid. This might come in handy. Right? Fred Rogers said, I got down there and I looked in his eyes and I said, hi. My name's Mr. Rogers. I like you. I want to be your friend. Tell me your name. He told me his name. And I said to him, that's a mighty fine sword you have. I've seen lots of swords, but that's one of the nicest ones I've ever seen. Do you know Mr. Rogers has a sword? It's a big old wood one, and I keep it in here. And whenever I'm scared, I take my sword out. And whenever I think people will hurt me, I take my sword out. And whenever I think I have to be strong just to show somebody, I take my sword out. But there are times I know that deep down I'm loved, and when I know I'm loved, I know that I don't have to do any of that stuff. And I put my sword away. I can tell by looking in your eyes, you're a very loved little boy. Your mother loves you very much. And the little boy said, I guess I don't need my sword today. One of the reasons when I don't go to my sanctuary, I think the only way I can get through life is with my sword. And I spend all of my time trying to impress or trying to whatever. I was reading just read it yesterday, and I decided it'd be perfect for this because the reality is we have sanctuary and we have a space and we can put our swords away. But the other paradigm shift, this isn't something I do. The shift here is we. We are on this together. Ram Dass's favorite line, which I use in my Sabbath moment. Sabbath moment is my daily email, which you're welcome to sign up for. But we use Ram Dass's statement, we're just walking one another home. So that's really the symbol of what we're doing here. This is a Seattle story. Actually, it's a Bellevue story. Beth Campbell is her name. This is in the 1990s. Beth Campbell had a son. Her name was Stevie. And Stevie wanted to play Little League Baseball, but Stevie had some disabilities. And so therefore, the Little League teams didn't want Stevie on their team. So what should Stevie do? So Beth Campbell started a program with her son Stevie. It's called Buddy Ball. And you can check it out, look it up. It's called Buddy Ball. Buddy Ball is a baseball league, and every team doesn't have 9 players, it has 18 players because everybody on the team has a disability, but they have a buddy, so every player has a buddy. And if you can't run, a buddy runs for you. If you can't hit, a buddy hits for you. If you can't catch the ball, a buddy catches the ball for you and gives it to you. Everybody on the team has a buddy. And I'll tell you right now, you got to go to a buddy ball game. There's nothing more heavenly than a buddy ball game because I'm reading this, I'm actually quoting now from the Seattle Times. This was a Seattle Times article about Stevie, about Beth Campbell at one of the buddy ball games. Oh, first of all, you have to know the rules of buddy ball. It's against the rules to strike out. Isn't that great? You can't strike out. Now, you have to try. It wasn't a pitch game. These are little kids. It's a T-ball. You set it on the thing. You get to try, but if you swing and even miss it, because some kids won't even hit it once on the tee. If you swing, and even once you swing and try, at least when you try 6 times, you get to go to first, even if you miss it every time. There's no striking out. Stevie never hit the ball. He always hit the tee. But after 6, he knew he could try 6 times and he'd run to first. And now I'm quoting from the Seattle Times. It said, and when Stevie got to first, he never stopped there. I love this. It said, but he never went to second. It said, he ran into the crowd and he hugged everybody. He said, and then the author said, maybe it's what life and sports can be. People running and jumping and playing together because we quit keeping score. Because who we are together matters more. I want to say to you, I know it's not the name of your church, but basically what this is buddy ball. And what you do is you gather here to remember as we look around the room, it's thank you. So one of the encouragements I offer you today, as we close here, one of the encouragement I offer you is your sanctuary, and for those close in your life, ask them about theirs, your swing set. Think about your sword. And the third thing is, whoever your buddy ball people are, tell them thank you today. Tell them thank you. And the next time I'm invited to be with you all, you're going to have to come to my garden and we'll have to do it there.
Thank you, Steve, for that beautiful contemplative music, I like to call it. What's that? Your buddy ball of music, right? And thank you, Terry, for that beautiful talk you gave us this morning. You've gifted to us this morning. This is the time in our service where I think I will make the assumption that we're all feeling like I am a little teary-eyed after that beautiful talk and the things that it brought up in me, the feelings, the memories, and things that it brought up in me. So this is our chance to share with each other, to throw the buddy ball back and forth a little bit and see if there's anything you want to share with Terry, since he shared so deeply with us and personally with us, and also with each other. And maybe you have a question or something that's come up for you. This is your chance to share it. And we'll take 10, 15 minutes, whatever we need to reflect upon this service this morning. And I can bring the microphone around, and if you would rather not speak in the microphone, you can tell me and I'll repeat your question. Some people are uncomfortable speaking. We still have our recording on for our listeners back home. And because we feel this is an important part of our service. So if anyone would like to begin or ask or say anything, I might do that because I had something come up with me when you were talking about the swing set, the swing. And something happened to me just this past week when it was evening, it was time to go to bed, and I was getting ready for bed, sitting in my meditation chair, and my feet were itching a little bit. I guess it had been a hot day, and I also was a little bit unsettled inside, which happens, and I started thinking about my grandchildren and how when they were smaller. Now my youngest one is turning 15 next week, and my older grandchild daughter is 16. And I was thinking about how they were little girls and they used to stay overnight with me. And they always liked to take a bath in my bathtub with bubbles. That was one of their favorite things to do. But sometimes our day would be so full and we'd be so busy, or we'd be sleeping out in the backyard in a tent that night or something. There was no time for bath. But I had this little ritual I did with them where I would wash their feet before they went to bed, because I always felt like you don't want to go to bed with dirty feet, right? There's just something. And so we would do, and they had never, they didn't know what I was talking about. Why does Grandma want to wash my feet? Well, just let me do it. You'll see why. And I'd get a warm washcloth and I'd wash their feet. And they loved it. But they didn't love it as much as I loved it. And it was such a, what made me think of that this week, I'm not sure, but it came back to me as I was, wishing that my feet didn't itch. And I almost called them, and it was late at night, and they were up all night, how they're teenagers there. I almost texted them and said, remember when Grandma used to wash your feet? But instead I sent them a little picture that had popped up in my camera of the three of us smiling into the camera, and I sent them that. But it was that moment on the swing set for me, only I was the grandma, and it didn't matter, right? Because what I was doing was mutual assuaging of whatever might else be going on in the human being, in the human heart. And so thank you for helping me remember that. And I still don't know why it happened to come up this week, because it isn't something I think about every time, but it may be coming back more often because it's something worth remembering. It was very, I remember I was smiling when I was remembering that memory, so it was a good memory.
Well, it's the power, the two things. It's the power of the fact that it's a mutual, it's an us thing. It's not just I, it's us. And the permission you had to receive that gift. See, you thought you were just doing grandma stuff. You didn't realize that you were also involved in the healing place and space, which is great. But the second thing, which is really necessary, you mentioned ritual. Rituals are vital. They're essential. They're necessary. And you think of it as aerobics. And the whole point with aerobics is this is not your final class. And it doesn't really matter whether the class went well today, see, because it doesn't matter. The point is you're going to have another class. And so the ritual reminds you it's the other class, which is great. And so, which is returning to gardening, gardeners need rituals. It's what you dig into. Yeah, so that's great.
So any other sharing or questions or comments or?
Hi, I've never been here before, so I'm not sure if how this goes. Well, just to say directly, I got laid off earlier this year, and I really resonated with the very direct piece that you were talking about when people ask you what you do and feeling a little bit confused on how to respond. And it was just coincidence that you were looking directly at me when you said, how do you make money? And I was like, I don't know how to respond to that. So that made me, that's been my year. So it's just, that was very real for me. But I think I also was really struck by, obviously the whole concept of sanctuary. And I was reflecting on, since in the past 5 years of my life, here's a little bit of trauma dumping for you, but my dad disowned me. My closest thing I'll ever have to a sister moved away. My life partner decided he no longer wanted kids, so we broke up. I got laid off, and I just was sort of thinking about a lot of, and it hasn't all been terrible, but there's just been a lot of moments of kind of trying to find that swing set, sanctuary, garden, finding solace in people, and then really having it ripped away from me. And that's been hard. And so I got to that very much so in a way that I didn't really expect to. But it also feels very wonderful that I was here for my first time when this would be discussed. So thank you for that.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you.
Because it was my first time, too.
Okay, that's right.
I'm really touched by the sharing, and I loved your talk, Terry. One thing I want to share is that I grew up in Washington, D.C., and didn't know that I thought that was normal. And then I moved away, and I lived in Vermont for 6 years, and I stumbled upon an interfaith community there. And the thing that drew me initially to that community was an assistant minister greeted me with, "What do you love?" rather than, "What do you do?" And I was so stunned by the question. I had never been asked that before. And so, to your point, but it took that question for me to understand how warped the Washington, D.C. way had been for me. And I'm new here, and not as brave as you to speak up so eloquently immediately. But I'm really pleased to have discovered another interfaith sanctuary, where I think I may start to feel like this is part of a swing experience. So, thank you.
What I loved about the fact you talked about the DC mentality, but that we have these mindsets and frameworks that become a part of who we are, and we're not even aware of it. And we feel like we're at the mercy of it. And one of the things that question encouraged you is it invited you to make choices, that we're not at the mercy of whatever these are. And I wish that we would greet each other at every worship space church. That's why much of my reading would be Buddhist theology, because we start with different questions there than we do in my Christian faith. Yeah, thank you.
I just want to say it's really great that you two sorry. It's great that you're brand new today. I feel like I already know you for some reason, but I know, it's like, why do I know you? Really, I thought, anyway, and that's really interesting, I think, that there's new people here. And I mean, I haven't been here that much lately, but it's beautiful today, and my heart's really tender already before I got here. So it's really nice. And one thing that I wanted to share was that this morning I was doing a short meditation, and I was thinking about this mimosa tree that I talk about. The people that know me the best know about the mimosa tree I grew up with, but up until I was in second grade, but that was my best friend, I think. I had friends, but I love getting up in the mimosa tree and being up with the little puffy flowers and then picking the beans later. And it was just, so this morning I was thinking, I just want to think about being up in the tree and just sort of laying back and looking at the little puffy flowers and the hummingbirds that come by. And it really soothed me this morning just to think of that. And so I'm really excited that we decided to come this morning. We don't always get to come, and we had to hustle, and but we made it. And thank you. Thanks, everybody. It's really special. I'm glad we did.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing.
So I retired a year ago, September 3rd, and I'm struggling with this. And also this sort of cultural embedded need to have earned my worth, or, not even money so much. And I'm starting to volunteer, which kind of fills that gap. But does anybody have any suggestions about what to say or to change things? I guess I could just ask them, what's the favorite thing you've done the last week or something, and just kind of redo it. But I don't know, in a world where that's still the main question and the main thought, how to kind of make inroads around that. I don't know. Anybody else?
I'm mainly retired myself. But if people ask me what I do, I might be saying, well, I'm just enjoying myself today, Yeah. Right now, I say that. Glad to meet you. I might ask them, how are you?
Mhm.
That's usually I don't ever go up to anybody on the first time and say, what do you do? If I meet somebody, I say, hi, I'm Steve, how are you doing today? Or how's it going today? Anything like that. Just a question that opens up the door, so then they can go wherever they want to go. I don't want to try to pigeonhole them into something in particular. But for me, the swing set analogy, I've sort of looked at my life in terms of being at home in the world wherever I am. That's my home. It doesn't vary. Of course, there are particulars that change, but the inner feeling of just being a human being and being a child of nature is just being at home wherever you are, because everything is nature. As I said, I did the service last week, which was about everything we see here is nature. These buildings over here are nature because we did them. The bird builds the nest. You ask somebody, is that nest part of nature? And most people will say yes. But if you point to that and you ask them, quite often people will say, no, that's not really nature, but it is nature. So, okay, that's it for me.
Can I tell a quick story? So because your statement about the questions to ask and so forth, connected to the nature thing, it's all sensorial. It's all related to the senses. So first graders were asked to name the 7 wonders of the world, which I wouldn't think that would be easy for first graders, but they gave it a shot. And so, they would shout out their answers. Grand Canyon, okay, that's good. Pyramids, they were just trying whatever. So these are good. Those are good. And then, of course, there's one student who says nothing. And so it's like Susie, and Susie says, I don't think I understand the question, she said to the teacher. Well, why? She said, because I don't have any of the right answers. She said, why don't you tell us what you've got and we'll help you. So Susie stood up and she said, the 7 wonders of the world are to see and to hear and to taste and to touch and to laugh and to love and to belong. So the answer of what kind of questions we ask each other, anything having to do with those. What did you see, hear, taste, touch, and laugh at today? I'll start. That would be a great conversation.
Okay, well, any other thoughts, comments, questions?
I just have a quick comment about Mr. Rogers. A person I met at the senior center maybe 5 months ago worked with Mr. Rogers. And so, believe me, we all of our age, we all think he should be running the world. But anyhow, she told this one story that after she quit working for him, this was in Washington, D.C., and her 2 sons were probably like 8 and 10, I don't know, beyond little, because they were little when she worked with him. And he was in a building with senators' kids, and he saw her out the window, and they hadn't seen each other for a while, and waved, and she waved back, and next thing he came right out, knelt in front of those 2 boys, so they weren't tall, they were still little, and said, "Congratulations, you have raised a really good mother."
That's a great story.
That's beautiful. There's so many. You know, when I was a middle school teacher, I had a habit when my kids would walk in the room every day, you know, I'd say, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood," you know, and none of them got it, you know, like, it didn't I didn't notice they didn't get it, because I just was saying it because it was true. I'd say, "Good morning, Jimmy, it's a beautiful day in the neighborhood," and all that, and they'd all just look at me like, okay, whatever. But anyway, one time I was on my way to visit a woman who I was just getting to know. She was taking over my job that I was retiring from a couple of years ago, and I had been in email contact with her, but I hadn't met her yet, and she had invited me to her house to work on this project we were doing, and I came over, and she came to the door, and you know, she's a young woman, she's taking over for this retired lady, and she greeted me at the door and welcomed me, and she said, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood." And I said, "Oh, you're my soul sister," because she greeted me the way I always like to greet other people. And she knew where, you know, I said, "Oh my God." And she was old enough not to know, I mean, she was young enough not to know who Mr. Rogers was, but she said it before I did. So I just felt like there had been an immediate connection. We later we have become very good friends, but that was the clincher right there. So you never know what's going to connect you to people with their magic moment. Anyway, we're going to keep moving on and going through some of our, other rituals that we have and traditions. And one of them is sharing our wealth. And I know that there are people online who are always willing and able and so generous to share online through the donate button on our website, interfaithcommunitysanctuary.org. And those of you who come on Sundays often have been sending in your donations per month and so on, and we appreciate it because that's how we keep up this beautiful historic building and pay our bills and make sure everything's in good order. And we know this is a volunteer community, and we also are deeply grateful for all the volunteer hours that people put in to help us keep this building and our programs going, and we're very, very thankful for that. And we have so many upcoming gatherings that I'd like to mention a few of. And these flyers over here are for anyone who wants to take one of anything I've mentioned. Feel free to pick up a flyer if you want more information about something. But we have a few special events coming up besides our weekly events and all of our classes and groups that meet from time to time. Jamal is starting a new class called Lessons for Our Life Journey, Insights Carved by Time, Remembered by the Heart. And this is a class, one of his spiritual development classes, which will be meeting on Zoom only for 6 weeks starting Saturday, September 20th, and running through November 1st. There's one Saturday in there that we will not be meeting, and it runs from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. It's on Zoom. It is recorded, so people who live in other time zones or cannot come in to the Zoom class at that time do have access to the recording whenever they want to see it. And so you can talk to either Jamal or myself, or send us an email if you would like to join that class. We're looking forward to having people share their own life stories and how they have, what the important lessons they have learned, as Jamal will be sharing a lot of his as well. There's also a dinner with, we've been doing this dinner with others series, and it's now, we're calling it Sacred Conversations, because it's not going to be a dinner this time, it's going to be a lunch, and it's a meal that we share together. We connect beyond labels and rediscover our shared humanity. This will be at St. Joseph's Parish in the Arupe room, and from 1 to 3 on Saturday, September 27th, so just in a few weeks coming up, and we're gathering in community there for some deeper conversations about the kinds of things, you know, that really matter in life, and stories that we can share with each other that will help us feel connected and be able to go deeper into community, and to have those buddy conversations with people that we may not have met yet or we haven't had a chance to get to know. And we also have our friend Wakil David Matthews, who's offering an end-of-life planning, another one of these end-of-life planning courses that he has offered in the past. And this is a way to look at your end-of-life planning in a spiritual setting where you can get some support on how to deal with these issues with your family members and in your own life. And then, as you know, we have classes that meet regularly. They're all on our website. You can sign up to get our weekly announcement every Monday morning of the different items that are coming up. After the service today, we have our monthly guiding council meeting, which meets downstairs, and we have some food left over from our, by the way, I was telling you about the wedding, the recommitment service. That was a Celtic wedding service, yeah. And they did the rituals like the jumping of the broom and the tying of the ribbons. So it was a beautiful way to, we have members of the Celtic groups in our communities, and this couple had been married in this building 25 years ago, and they were recommitting. And there's food left over, Indian food from India Bistro. We've heated up a little bit of that, and we'll have that at lunch while we have our guiding council meeting. And we have a guest presenter there too as well this month. And I know Joey wants to talk about the work group that's going to be meeting soon, and please check out our classes and our gatherings, and join us with anything that speaks to your heart.
Hi again. So on September 20th, I would like to invite you to join me in nature, in our very own gardens here. I would like to have a work party from 10 until 1. And then after that, from say 1 to 3, a picnic. And these things are mutually exclusive. If it doesn't turn you on to come and work in the garden, if that's not your sanctuary, don't do it. If a picnic is more your sanctuary, come to the picnic. Or if they both turn you on, come to both. So I just love to see you there and have the opportunity to connect with you in nature and, you know, walk the talk, right? Thank you.
Great. We did a tree walk once as one of our services. In fact, it was one of our Druid presenters who took us on a walk around this neighborhood. We have some historic trees in this neighborhood. And he taught, I'll never forget that service. I love that. That was one that Karen Lindquist set up. And the gentleman who did it has moved out of town, because I've tried to get back in touch with him to ask him to do that again, to do a tree walk with us. So, you know, there are infinite opportunities to get out there and find your bliss, as they used to say. Any other announcements? Okay, then we're going to put an official end to the live streaming and say goodbye to our friends online and thank them for being here. And I will ring our bell to do that. Thank them for being with us, because they are. We have many people who enjoy this service from home. In fact, Chris and Lila, who were here last night, told me they would be watching from home because they left here pretty exhausted last night, but they were very grateful